possibilities. So I am going to start by making this little necklace with these shell beads. This is such a sort of a classic design with the cowrie shells, and then we can add in some big hole beads and some of the little charms. And that's a pretty simple project. This is, again, a really great gift idea. And you can do this same design with all kinds of different beads and components. So it's really versatile. So I am going to start with, and I've got about a foot and a half, two pieces of foot and a half, 1 millimeter leather. And I'm using 1 millimeter because I'm going to be using these big hole gemstones, and I want to make sure that they all go through there. So sometimes the easiest thing to do is, and I've got these all lined up here, is to start from the middle. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and find the middle of these two strands, and I'm going to just tie an overhand knot. Okay, all right. And so I think the sequence I'm going to use is a shell, a big hole bead, and then a little cluster of smaller stuff. So let's start with the shell. Now, this is not really a bead in any sense of the word, because it's just got it's flat and it's got this slit in the middle. So in order to keep this thing from just falling out of the leather, I actually have to thread one piece of the leather up through the shell and another piece of the leather down through the shell. Okay, and there we go. Okay, and I think I found that the best way to keep this thing from sliding before I one piece up through the shell here, and I've got this thing just sort of hanging here, I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple of twists on the leather, and then I will go ahead and put the other piece up through the shell. Okay, let's see what we got now. Now I've got something that really is going to kind of stay put there. So I can go ahead and get that centered and tie another knot. Here we go. Okay. Okay. And so I'm just tying simple overhand knots here. Okay. And the next step is to, and by the way, if things sort of slide around on you, don't hesitate to use a little glue. My motto is there's just no such thing as too much glue. So I've got a big hole, 8 millimeter, and I could use 10 too, of the blue Crazy Lace agate. Love this stuff. Both strands are here with no problem. Put this on here. Gonna just tie another overhand knot. Okay, and now I'm going to do a little cluster. Okay, so I've got here some of the little seed beads, and they're the right color. They go with the leather and the bead. They got a little gold in them, so I thought it might be fun to add some little gold rings in. So I think what I'm going to do is, on one strand of the leather, I will put a seed bead, and these will go through with absolutely no problem, and maybe a charm. And I've got, on my sample, I used the little round ball components. Of course, I ran out of those, so I'm going to use the moons and stars, and we'll go ahead and thread on one of these little charms here. And you know what? Go ahead, and every time something doesn't work, you just trim it off. This is going through here because I have done it several times. There we go. So I got that on one side of the leather. And on the other side of the leather, I think I'm just going to put one of these little gold spacer rings. Come on there. Okay. And another seed bead. Okay. And the 1 millimeter leather is small enough so that you could also consider using sea glass in here. So here we go with that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and tie another overhand knot. Okay. Okay. And I'm just going to do one more shell to make sure you can see how to do that. And then I'm going to show you how to finish this without finishing the bracelet, because again, I just don't want to take up too much of your time. So here's the shell. So one side up through the shell, okay, and then with both of them on top, I'm just going to twist a couple of times, and then I'm going to send the other side down through the shell. My hands are in the way here. And so I've got that little twist right in the middle, which holds it right in place. There we go. Okay. So let's have this bracelet finished. And maybe, yeah, okay. So now what I'm going to do is do the classic slider clasp. And you could use the little slider clasp components, probably 1mm one. But what I'll do is I will put half of my strands through the bead, through one of the beads one way, and I want these to be snug, so it's going to take just a little bit of work to get all 4 strands through the bead. So I've got 2 going through in one direction and 2 going through in the other direction, and this one's going to go in without too much trouble. And the last one, of course, is the one that we're really going to have to work. So I am holding these down as tight as I can to try to get this little strand started. And sometimes the trick is, if I can just get it started here, I can kind of push the other strands down. Ooh, I feel it. It's gonna happen. There it goes. And then I got that last strand through. So what I have is, okay, there we go. Okay, so I've got 2 strands coming through one way and 2 strands coming through the other way. And we've done with some other little bracelets with the waxed cord. So what I want to do is open up the bracelet as wide as I would possibly want it, and then I will tie 2 of these strands. You notice here I've got 2 of the strands tied right up to the bead, and this is as big as I could possibly need this. So I've got 2 knots tied right up to the bead, and then I've got the other 2 a little further out, and before I tied them, I actually added in another one of these little elements here. So, and then once I do that, I can trim the leather, and again, here's the bracelet when it's open. I can get it on. Hopefully. Okay, and maybe it's a little small for other people, so make sure you decide what the very largest component is, and then I can just snug up these 2 ends, and this will take, of course, if you're by yourself, a little bit of work. Here we go. Get it from one side, get it from the other side, and then this bracelet, and these will stay put once I get them in position. This bracelet is all ready to wear, and there is that slider clasp. Does that make sense to everyone? Hopefully. Email me, text me, call Antelope Beads. We will, I think we'll go ahead and put this on the website because this is a nice design. And by the way, if you are making bracelets for Christmas presents, keep in mind that it's really nice to have them be adjustable, because you just don't know how big people's wrists are. So this is one way to get an adjustable clasp. We have lots and lots of bracelets online with different kind of slider clasps, and so that's project number 1, and I think this will be really pretty when it's finished here. Okay, so the second one is pretty elaborate, so we're going to just take this step by step. So this is one of the new bracelet components. Really interesting texture here, and it's got these 8 holes. And so you know, sometimes I get these things and I look at them and go, okay, what are we going to do? So, and of course, my first thought was to dangle all kinds of chain down here and some beads and, you know, maybe do something like a chandelier approach. We've done the tiered drops before, so we kind of know how to do that because we've done that with earrings. But I thought, you know, a little bit of fringe will be fun because this is a pretty funky piece. So what I have here are, in this one, I think I have 4 different colors of the waxed nylon cord. And I've got I picked this clay cult bead as kind of the focus of my color combination. So I'm picking out some blues, some greens, even a little bit of brown. So I've got all those colors of cord mixed in here. And then I went ahead and added this fringe. I added some beads to the fringe. And then I even, on some of them, I tied these little spiky things to the bottom. You could definitely put in some small chain, add some small chain into this as well. So we've got the fringe, and then we've got this little beaded section, and then we've got a little braided section. So let's go ahead and see if we can't sort of walk through all those steps. Okay, so here we have all this stuff here. So I'm using waxed nylon cord, so I'll want my lighter. And of course we need some glue. And I have got all kinds of little individual strands of cord already cut. And this one I've added in one of the flat cords. I think it's going to add a little bit more texture. And then I've got a bunch of sodalite beads, and I've got some clay cult beads, and I've got some sea glass and some clay river beads. And again, what I did was I just looked at this beads and I pulled a whole bunch of stuff that kind of blends with that, including, so this was the start of my design. Okay, so let's start with the fringe. Okay, so I've decided that for each hole I'm going to want one strand of this blue flat cord and then one strand of the other cord. And I've got some dark red, light red, sort of a purplish red, and a real navy blue. So I've got these 2 strands. Okay, and I'm going to thread them through this hole. And of course the flat one is going to give me the most problem because it's not as waxy as the other. So what I think I'll do is just put that one through first. There it goes. And then put the other one through as the second one. You notice if I crank down on the cord here, it sort of makes more room for the second bead to go, second cord to go through this hole. So there we go. Okay, so I got those 2 through here, and these holes are really too small to do a lark's head or anything like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie an overhand knot. And one thing I am going to do as I tie all of these fringes is make sure I'm tying my knots in the same direction. I think it's going to just make it look a little bit more uniform. So there's number 1. Let's do one more. Okay, let's get a dark purple this time with the blue. So I've got these 2 cords. Get you guys out of the way. And then I'm going to again put the blue one through. And you definitely want to work from one side to the other on this. Otherwise, you're going to knots snugged up. There goes the second bead through the cord. And there we go. Okay. And, okay. Apologize for the phone. That was supposed to have been off. Okay, here we go. So there's the second one. Okay, and again, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm tying my knot kind of in the same direction so that the knots will kind of look uniform when I get them all done. So here I go. I've got my knot and I'm just using my fingernail to snug that up. If I see that there's a little bubble right here, I'm going to sort of pull that down and make sure everything's nice and even. And I'd continue through here. So just stop for a second how to add beads. So I've got all kinds of beads here. I've got some sea glass, I've got some clay colt beads, got some of these bigger beads, which I'll probably save for the top. So, you know, for each little section, I'm going to decide that I want maybe, you know, a silver bead. So I'm going to put that on the cord, and these are those little silver spacer beads, and maybe a small clay colt bead, and maybe another little tiny silver bead. Come on, and these all do go on the cord. The tiny ones, of course, take a little bit more. There we go, to get that through. There we go. Okay, so, and then I'll decide, you know, kind of where I want them. Do I want them up near the top? Do I want them down here? And I think maybe pretty close to the top, because usually when I do something like this, I like to start on the edges near the top and then kind of work my way down into a V. So there's that. Tie a knot to hold that in place. Okay. And then, you know, maybe I'll decide that I want one of these sea glass beads on the next bunch. And there we go. I know it's going to go in. Again, I tested these this morning. These are the 2x4 millimeter sea glass rondelles. Okay, so, and once again, when things don't go through, first thing we do is trim it to a V. Okay. Secondly, we take it and sort of pull the end down, especially with the wax cord, and then we will, there it goes, put it right through. And I can even put a couple on there. Maybe maybe I just want this guy down here. So I will go through that whole process of adding beads to the fringe, and I'm just going to go back to my sample for a second, just for a second. So as I'm working, you know, I am making sure that my larger beads in particular are kind of staggered, and then I've got the little beads just kind of all mixed in on it. This one I have, whoa, what was that? Okay, I have also these little guys tied to the end, which I don't have for this second design. So, and then at the end, what I did do was I went through and I kind of trimmed the cords, and I didn't, they're not even by any means, but you notice if I fan this out, it's sort of, it has that kind of a V look. Not perfect. I didn't want it to look perfect, but the edges are a little bit shorter than the inside. So that's the fringe part of this necklace. Okay, the second part is going to be this beaded part in the middle. Okay, so I have a longer piece of red cord here. Now what the heck is this? Okay, hang on. I don't know what that is. There we go. Okay, all right, don't move. Okay, okay, so I've got a longer piece of cord, and I probably only need about, apologize, I don't know what is causing this. Okay. Okay, hang on just a second. Okay. I've never, ever, ever had this happen before, so I have no idea why this is happening. Come on, baby. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do this little beaded section. So what I will do is take about, I'm going to cheat myself, probably a couple of feet of wax cord. Okay, and I'm going to thread it through the top hole. Here we go. Okay. And then I am going to, okay, there we go, got it through the top hole right here. Going to tie an overhand knot. Okay. Now, I am not going to get a silver bead through both of these holes, both of these cords up here. I'm going to actually put this back here for a sec so I think it'll be a little easier to see. There we go. So I've got this back here. There we go. And then I'm going to slide this top clay cult bead over both strands. All right, okay, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to tie another overhand knot at the top to secure it. And again, I tie the knot and I just kind of use my fingernail to nudge it up. And I can also take the two strands and split them and pull it. Okay, so there's that. Now, when I start this, I know big beads right next to this because they're just going to kind of clunk into each other. So on this piece, I actually started with a little seed bead before I got into the bigger beads. So let's maybe try a silver bead and one of the sea glass beads. So I'll go ahead and add maybe a tiny silver bead. Okay, we just went through this. Okay. Here we go. Not going to quite go. I'm going to trim this off again. Okay. Okay, whoop. One more. There we go. It's going to go this time. Come on, baby. Okay. I'm only going to do this once, so there we go. Okay, and then I'll put a sea glass bead on here. Okay, and again, I'm just going to, every time it doesn't go through, I'm just going to stop, trim. There we go. And put that guy through there. And then maybe I'll put, just for ease of everything, I'll put a bigger one on the top. And you really need to go. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that starts me out as a nice little tapered thing. And then I can go ahead and tie this. Okay. And then I will just add one at a time. I'm going to add these 10 millimeter, and these are the regular whole lapis beads through the cord, tie a knot, and don't need any special tools, just your fingernail. It's a little loose, it's cold. Tie a knot. Okay, one more, and I just want to get this done because I want to show you the top part. Okay. 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 And maybe I'll just end with a silver bead and another red sea glass bead. And then I'm going to attach this, and I don't necessarily need it, but it's probably the easiest thing to do, is attach this to a, okay. Okay. Attach this to a jump ring. So here we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this through a jump ring. And I'm just going to tie an overhand knot. Make sure it's all nicely snugged up there. Go. And then I am going to trim it to just about 3/16 of an inch. Fluff it up. And my favorite part of this whole thing is to get the lighter out and melt it. Okay. And and then as soon as it's melted, I just pat it in there like that. Okay, so that I've got that little section right there. Okay, so that is the second part of this project. The third part is the necklace part. And what I have here is I decided I wanted a really long necklace. I mean, those are, you know, fun for layering and everything else. So I've got 6 strands of waxed nylon cord, and I've also got a strand of the bubble chain, and I probably have close to 2.5, 3 feet here. So, and I've got one strand that has a loop in the front of it, and that's that bluish gray strand. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that guy out, and I am going to put him through the ring and center it. Okay. And this will just, this is totally off screen, but there's no way. So that strand is centered. And then I'm going to line all these other guys up here. I've got 4 more strands plus the chain. I'm going to line them up right about right here. And I'm actually going to even pull these down a little further. Okay. And then I'm going to tie an overhand knot with this whole group of stuff, including the chain. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. Snug that up there. Okay. Okay, so now I've got all these strands. My chain is not behaving. Let's see if we can get it to behave here. This little tiny bubble chain, we did it with Kumihimo. You can do all kinds of things with this chain other than just hang things from it. Okay, I'm just going to get this untangled. This will just take just a second. Okay. It just sort of got a little tangled when I went to knot it. There we go. Okay. There. All right, here we go. So we got that all done, and then I will want to trim. I'm going to trim all these ends. I'm going to get the chain. There it goes. Chain straightened up there, so it's really part of the knot. So I've got that. And then what I'm going to do is braid. Okay. So I think I'm going to put my 2 blue strands together with the chain, and then I've got 2 dark red strands, and then a lighter red strand and a navy blue strand. Now this is something where you want to clamp. This is where the Knotty Do-It-All board is super helpful, because you can clamp this right into the board, and then I'm just going to start to braid these, and I'm going to braid the chain right into the whole piece there. Okay, and keep going. There we go. Got that to start with, and then when it's finished, okay, it looks like this. Really quite nice, really quite pretty. And then to finish this off, what I did was I ran 2 of these little strands here, two of the strands sticking out at the end, through the clasp back down, and I took some 24 gauge wire and just made a little coil ending, and we've got a whole YouTube video on this, different ways to end necklaces. And then I simply cut off the top ends that are all sticking out the top, cut off this end, and burn whatever is left there. It's a little bit left, but you know, again, just melting this makes it look really clean and make sure it's not going to come undone. Got the glue, and then I'm finished, and I've got this whole long necklace. Okay, so 2 other things. So of course we want earrings to go with our pieces, and so for the one with the jade, I have a 6mm jump ring here, and I just added the little spike to the bottom, and I did a simple loop with a jade bead with a little tiny silver on either side, and then I have a little seed bead at the top, attach that to the ear wire, and I've got a matching earring. And then for the shells, and these I think are just so stinking cute, is I've got this tiny shell, and I just dangled a little seed bead from the bottom, and that's it. It's just so delicate, so cute, and great gift ideas, like a sort of a coordinating bracelet or necklace with the earrings to go with it. Some people don't like the matchy stuff, but a lot of people do. All right.